Every once in a while, you meet someone, you can kind of sense the passion in what they do. And when that passion aligns to work, it can really open some doors for you. And my next guest has a passion for creating great products that deliver exceptional experiences. Today, I'm joined by Keith McDonald, the beta program lead at Square. He's a seasoned professional with over a decade of experience, and I can't wait to share his story. In this episode, you'll hear about his journey from getting the testing program set up at Sonos to tackling complex problems of a global fintech company at Square. We'll unearth the treasure trove of best practices from hard lessons learned, and hear about what an industry veteran thinks the future of user testing looks like. Let's get into it. Today, I'm joined by Keith McDonald. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, Keith.
My pleasure. Really happy to be here.
Yeah, so first off, I'd love to hear your journey, how you got started in your career.
For sure. It's a long one. I've been around for a while. I feel really old when I try to explain this story, but I'll do the shortest version I can. So I started actually home automation for a company called Soundsgood way back. I think I was 19 when I started, and this was an amazing experience. I didn't know it at the time for what I've gone through now and looking back. You get to go into people's homes. You get to fully understand, everything that they want and desire, and you create a solution for them and are able to implement that within a day or two, or, it could be months depending on the scale of the program or the project. And I did that for about 7 years. And I did all of it. I did the install side, I did the selling side, I did the project management side. And I went to a party. I can't remember the day or the year. But somebody that worked at Tweeter, which is like a home audio company that was out here for a while. They don't exist anymore. They had this Sonos system that was there really early on. It was a couple of speakers that was hooked up to this Sonos amp and this thing that looked like a Russian iPod. And I've never seen anything like it before. But I asked what is that? And they were able to scan all their music selections, and I think Napster was the only thing around at the time for a music service that they were able to utilize. Able to hit play, and the music played. And based off all the years I was doing all these hardwired systems to a hard drive. We had this service that would rip CDs into your hard drive for you, like 75 cents a CD or 25 cents a CD. And this was far beyond that experience. It was so easy. So I looked into that, and I actually started selling Sonos at the company I was at for about a year and a half. And I was, at the end of what I wanted to do there, and I wanted something new. And I looked at Sonos, and they had an opening for customer care, customer support at the time, tier one, which I just wanted to get in the door. I wanted to know it. I respected the company, and it was such bulletproof products and experience. I really admired what they delivered. So I interviewed there and started on the ground floor, taking phone calls. And I thought I knew everything about Sonos. It turns out I knew about 3% of what Sonos was and what it does and how it works in the back end. And it was amazing to be part of that process because I had the insights of being a customer of Sonos, an installer for Sonos, and understand what people really wanted from the product. And within the first year of taking phone calls, we were in development of a new soundbar called the Playbar. And they knew I had home theater experience, and they wanted me to start looking over feedback for this MPI program. It wasn't truly a beta program. Super small. I think it was only maybe 100 testers, but they were mostly reviewers or people that knew people, friends and family and stuff like that. And this was my first step into fully understanding, okay, there's feedback coming in, you have to analyze it, and you have to work with the engineering team. And that was my small knowledge of this process at the time. And after doing all that, they tasked me with training the entire Sonos company about Playbar. which was awesome. Like never have done anything like that before. So I got put in this position. I had confidence from a really good manager and director of customer support called Mike Carlino, and he tasked me with this. And at the end of that, he asked me to actually manage a new department called the home theater department for customer support, which was all those calls coming in for Playbar and anything that was home theater related. The greatest part about all that is that I already had the mindset of what I was doing previous, of looking through all the feedback. So when we launched, my main goal was to take all the information and understand what were all the themes, what were all the insights coming in, and pass those along as fast as possible. Um, and that was super successful. It was one of the first times, and this was the feedback I received, that we were able to break the barrier between customer support and products once we went to GA. Usually they were on to the next one. And that's usually a lot of companies, they do that. They're on to the next product. But they really wanted to dig in and they really wanted to understand how people were using this product, what issues still were outstanding, what we could improve upon. And that turned into, hey, I'll tell you this story. There was a keynote speech on Apple, one of the main events, when they were releasing or introducing Apple Music. And Sonos was brought up to be one of the premier systems that were going to have Apple Music on their system. This was the first we heard of it as a company at that keynote speech. So we had to figure something out. So we had to scramble for a little bit. And we had another big major release that was coming out. So the wheels were turning already. What we were trying to figure out was like, how do we take in beta feedback at like a large scale and make sure that the insights were correct that we were delivering. And we did a test trial where people could take beta calls, no matter who you were, and we would look through the feedback. The problem with that is the difference between somebody that's just on the phone or responding to emails, usually trying to resolve a case, and beta is completely different. You're trying to understand like what's wrong, and then beyond that, how did you get there? Like, what were the steps that took you to this place that broke it, or you went in the wrong direction? And we soon, like real quickly, we're like, we need a dedicated team for this. And again, my boss at the time, Mike Carlino, goes, "I want you to create a team with the best guys and the best people you could find that we have today." I had the luxury of selecting a core group of 8 that were just outstanding individuals and all different types of talent, right? Some people were super technical. Some people were just super analytical. Some people saw the bigger picture of like, how do we get all this information and show it off to the right teams? And through that process, we were able to develop this beta technical group. We were beta engineers, and you could call it beta support group at the end of the day. And there was a bunch of trial and error in the very beginning, and I'll go over that in a little bit. But I did that and had this group globally of 8 people that turned into 16 people over the years. They were all dedicated to all MPI products, and that was hardware, software, music services at Sonos that went through that process, which was just amazing. And I did that for about 3 or 4 years on the support side. And then I was asked to be a beta PM, actually run programs for the beta team. And I got some great experience there. I got to be part of the Sonos Move release. I got to be part of the Sonos Amp release, the Sonos L-Ray release, or L-Ray, project names, Sonos Beam release. And the cool part about those, each one of those projects had something completely new that we had to figure out how customers were going to receive it. They all had individual pieces. The Move was the first time Sonos ever did Bluetooth, which was like a no-no back in the day. Bluetooth is horrible, but it was such a customer demand, and they wanted that. And it was our first portable speaker with a battery. So it was really awesome to go through that process. And then the Sonos Beam was our first step into HDMI and HDMI ARC, which was a big piece and huge learning there too. And AMP altogether was a complete redesign, completely dedicated to installers, which was amazing to be part of as being an installer before. It was really great to have, individual touch on that as well. So after doing the PM work, I was asked to go work for the hardware team as a PPM, which pretty much is oversight over all the programs. So you deal with the budgets, the timelines, all the individuals that are part of the program to make sure they're hitting their deadlines as well. I went over as a software TPM on that side, and then I came back to be the head of global beta for the last 2 years at Sonos. And now at Square as a beta lead for the hardware team, kind of doing what I was at Sonos, pretty much making sure the experience of the hardware is amazing, the software is amazing for our sellers. So it's a really awesome experience overall.
That's interesting. I'd love to go back a little bit on your story. Is you got tasked with building a team for the support aspect of it, and you said you had a mixture of technical people and customer focus. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So you're ground level. You don't have those resources yet. How are you tackling? How are you building that plan in your head to fill that team?
Well, think of a beta program, right? You don't want just super users. Like, that's not going to give you everything you're looking for. You can have a super user they're going to test out every aspect of the product. They'll give you all the technical feedback that you're looking for, but you still need to take that in and do something with it. And you usually have to break that down in multiple different ways depending on who you're providing that information to. When I looked at the team that I wanted to build, I needed a team of doers, people that were going to actually be all in with the programs that we were running, fully investigate what we were looking into, but also understand what the end goal was to provide the best experience for the customer. And your uber technical person might not have that, but you need that person to fully understand what the problem is. You have also the other aspect of it is like who's really good at extracting information from customers, asking the right questions. And you could have, a team of 100 really good customer support people. And you look at that group, there's some that are just amazing at one, responding to people, making it feel unique and special for the person. And when a tester feels like they're appreciated and they're getting the same output that they've put into the program as well, that conversation becomes way more fulfilling on both ends. And the information that you get is tenfold of what you would get just with like a generic response back and forth. So you need that care piece as well. And then you need the person that knows how to put the story together. And that's usually the person that's managing the group. Plus you need some, your sidekick, your go-to people to put those together. And luckily enough, I knew enough. It was a small enough group at the time. When I joined, it was like 200 people. And I think around this time, it was like 500 people at Sonos. There were some really rising stars in the support group that I was able to go through and have them join the team, and they believed in me as well. So they didn't have to join, but they were more than happy to jump on this. And it's cool to be part of beta, but the beta program. It's usually you're the first to see the new hardware and software and test it out. So there's a benefit there, but they were just amazing people all around.
Yeah, it's very good. I mean the way that you even worded, sometimes you have to like extract a little more information from a tester, and I
Hmm.
definitely have felt that before, where you have an engineer or someone very pragmatic focused could be asking something of a tester like, hey, I need more information, this is what I need, and a customer care mindset could lay a little more groundwork to get a little more details to get to that why, because that why is very important in a beta, because it could be a bug, but it could be also some challenge with usability. It could be a feature misalignment. It could be anything, and having those details are pretty instrumental in the
Yeah,
process of beta.
I would say it's the big difference, right? You could have a help desk set up that the data just goes directly to an engineering department,
Mhm.
right? And that's traditionally what some companies do today to get their information for a new product out in the field. But then it comes down to a numbers game of like how many times has it happened, and not really understanding the impacts to the products, the impact to the customer and their experience of like when it's happening, and then like what's the end result of all this? Is it pure frustration? Is it they're not going to use the product anymore because of it, or that feature that you're working on, or they're not willing to buy the product because of that? And those are the things that you have to spend time on. You're not going to get that off a one sentence response. That's where a lot of the time of the team really goes into understanding what is that 360 view of the problem, not just I was trying to go to A and then I ended up on B and there was something in the middle that just broke and I wasn't able to get to B, whatever it may be. And I think the terms that you hear all the time is the difference between verification and validation, right? We will verify that the product works, but we're going to validate that the customer wants it and they're going to like it, and it's doing the things that we felt at the beginning when this whole thing became what came from an idea to a real product that's being tested, that it's actually hitting the mark of like what we desired to do with that product.
Much more than just a bug hunt.
Correct.
Uh,
Correct.
Another useful thing, I think, in what you mentioned is that by giving the care, giving the response back to the tester, it gives you the richer data, which is arguably very important. But showing that to the tester is more likely to have that tester come back for more feedback. Like they will be more willing to give you feedback, and other testers can see those efforts too. And by putting that effort in, you tend to see more engagement, more participation from testing. So it's not just that you as a person running the test, you should focus on this to get the best information possible on this single thing. It's knowing that you have there's a ripple effect to even the effort that you're putting into
Mm-hmm.
one thing. And I think that gets overlooked a heck of a lot, in this kind of testing, especially for people that aren't dedicated to doing it. So if it's a product manager, a QA, or a support person that is only focused on the beta test itself, and not the longevity of a whole project, or beyond just this one thing that's going out there, could have a lasting
That's
impact.
for sure. Yeah, and I think it's completely understandable too. Like, I don't fault any of the other teams that operate that way because they have a timeline, right? They're trying to hit a GA date that they've promised to, and they don't want to push that out. They don't want more issues to come in. And the best part about beta in this sense is really you're going beyond the bug, right? You're not just talking about the things that break. You're talking about the things that will keep people a customer. And those are the things that you really strive to like pull out and show off and get the attention of the rest of the company to go out and fix before we actually go to GA to make that experience as best as possible.
Mm-hmm. It's super interesting that you laid it out there. One thing that sparked into my head is I was running a project once, and I'm interacting with our stakeholders, and we have a log inside Centercode that will show like, a list of the feedback submitted by a specific user. So the way the conversation went is we showed off a bug, and it's like, this is the bug that the testers showing, or they're experiencing it, and it's nothing crazy. It's like, some error popped up, and they restarted, and it worked fine. um, but where we got into real insights is we pulled up the log of issues that they were running into, and you can see that there was like six chained issues to that same thing. So this user was not just running into
Mm-hmm.
that one snapshot of a bug. It's like, no, they had a handful of bugs within this same thing. And we were looking at from the feature perspective of, okay, they're testing this one feature, and they, since starting this feature, have ran into 5 or 6 different problems. But if you focus just on that, the single experience versus what would be like that whole encompassing holistic journey, you miss out on so much of what the impact of not just that one bug, but what a series of bugs, or feature requests, or things that are working well,
Oh
like
yeah.
what that would mean. Um,
yeah, I'll expand on that a bit more in a different experience that I've had. And then this took a while to get to at Sonos. When you test out a feature, you test out a product, you have your normal things like the setup flows and everyday use cases and like if anything's happening with a specific feature with the product itself. We expanded that way beyond that, right? Where it was the first time experience receiving the product. What did the packaging look like? Was it, what you would expect from a high quality or, the a premium product like Sonos? Were you receiving what you thought you would get? And then how was the opening experience? Going through all of the different pieces of that. Was it easy to take out of the box? Was it easy to take out of the wrap? The setup flows. Then the first time you listen to a movie or listen to music or watch TV, what were all those different experiences like? And you start to really understand the breakdown of not just delivering insights to a PM or engineering team. Then you're talking to the packaging team. You're talking to the marketing team. You're talking to the user research team to see what they were finding in their initial research. And you start to build this amazing core team that for every program you go out and you're starting to build that portfolio of what do we want to learn? And then you have all the experience and all the results from the previous programs to bring up of like what we should be going after. And then if it's a new feature or a new hardware experience, you can all think about how we're going to approach that and what we're looking for a result as well.
Yeah. So I'm looking for your advice on this one for some people out there. There are programs that are very much stuck in the bug hunt. Like they can't get their program
Yep.
outside of the fact that engineering QA and this beta is that's all the beta is. It's they're going to put this product out into the world with whatever group of testers, whether it's employees or actual people like actual customers, but they're just looking for bugs and they can't get the team to accept anything else than other than bugs. They won't have surveys going out. They're not looking for those ideas or feature requests or anything to improve on. They're just like, nope, this is what we're looking for. We're just making sure that it's stable enough to go out the door. How would you help that team expand what they can get, the value that they can get from something like a beta program?
Yeah, so there's a before and after answer for this. So the after effect, you release, right? After, you've gone through the bug hunting phase, you're kind of essentially extension of QA at a larger scale with real world examples. Um, and you have really close contact with the CS team and you're doing data analysis on everything that's coming in based off that feature or product that was just released and do a full breakdown of everything that's being caught after the fact. And that's the painful side of it. But sometimes, and from my experience, you have to dig in and put the time in to get to the point where you can convince others of the importance of having, a MPI program or a beta team that's dedicated to doing things beforehand. And the toughest part of the after part is you can't tie emotion to it as much as you want to. You're frustrated. Usually you're listening to the CS stories and you're going, this is miserable. Like, I can't believe that we are putting a customer through it, to a customer support agent through it, advocate through it, and it's consistently happening. So you have to remove that, right? It has to be based off facts, and you have to be able to clearly point those out with clear examples. It can't just be gut at that point. It can't be. Um, this is something that every probably support center deals with, is that they get the same type of calls all the time. They could probably say, these are our top 5 issues all the time, whatever it is. It could be any company, it doesn't matter what it is. It's going to be the top 5. And you can report that out to every team over and over and over again. It doesn't go anywhere because there's usually not enough clean data to prove it out. You need individuals that are just digging in, pointing that out, and building this story that's really strong. to then present out. The before side of this, and what I found super helpful, is understanding the struggles of the other teams, understanding the tools the other teams are using on a day in, day out basis, and understanding what they're discussing on a weekly basis. And what this allows you to do is going, I know I can help them if I do this. I know I can help in this area if I get this accomplished. And the more that you're willing to put yourself out there to be an incredible partner and things that you probably weren't ever supposed to do, the more they're willing to listen to you. And you build great relationships, sometimes ground up, but usually if somebody's coming from a different department and working and collaborating with other groups really well, the heads of those departments take notice real quick. And then you can start the discussions of going, we need to be involved earlier, and here are the reasons why, and here's what we're trying to help out with. And you have the background from all those different groups that you've met with. Doesn't matter if it's marketing, doesn't matter if it's engineering or QA or product or program management. You're able to lay out a foundation of what you can deliver, and then at the end of this, you have to deliver, and you have to put the work in. It gets easier, but the initial start off point or the breaking point involves you digging in and doing the work and actually showing it. And again, you can't be super emotional about it. It's you have to treat it like, yes, we have customers, and really just nail that this is not about me. This is about the end result. This is about the end experience, and we need to be better.
Yeah, it's a very good take. I had very similar experiences in terms of, I think relationships is how I was able to build connections with those different teams. So sometimes it was just going out and finding those teams that I could serve, and just trying to connect with them on a personal level, and then figure out how I could then help them with the challenges they had. So like I would double down on that being a key aspect of a way to get your program outside, right? Like it's that ability to network as a beta program manager. You have access to a pool of customers, and you want to give this information to the teams that could benefit the most from it, before launch, so they don't have the pain of what happens after launch. So I think that
For
is a
sure.
very good piece of advice.
Yeah, and going back to, the Playbar days, right? Like that first beta program that I wasn't on a beta team, I was just asked and tasked to go through feedback. And the great part about that experience is that then I was on the other side of it, of supporting the product once it went to GA. When I was getting results, I was bucketizing every piece of feedback that we were getting in. The team was super tight on what to look out for. And those reports were being sent out. And then I was doing, weekly or bi-weekly presentations about the experience that people were having. There were feature updates going out for that product that were coming directly from our customers that we found in the beta feedback that didn't get implemented. But I made sure that I knew these were going to be hot topics to ensure that we knew what to focus on moving forward. And we were able to get those implemented in the first year, which, like, I don't know how many features normally get introduced from our sell, your customers from, the first year for feature requests, but we had probably like 6 or 7 items get taken on, which was really amazing. And talk about motivating factors for your team.
Oh yeah.
Being able to see that happen is huge because they're part of the process and they're part of the change, which is like talk about like what you're striving for in anything is to be part of the impact of a program. And that end experience, like you can't beat that.
Yeah, definitely. I've got I'll throw a slight curveball at you just based on that conversation. So we talked about a program that's stuck in the an extension as QA. I'd love to get your take on this because this is definitely something that I felt is a hot topic. The program that ends up being the catch-all. It's everything is going to happen in beta. You've got pricing, you got some market research, you got some user research, you got the extension of QA, you've got testing documentation, and the program that it's our last stage. Let's just throw everything at it. Do you see any challenges with that? Like how do you deal with a team that's in that situation?
How much time you have? Like if it's 2 weeks, it's one thing.
Yeah.
If it's a full software upgrade and there's a product launch and there's pricing and everything along the lines of that, and you have like 6 months to a year to take that on. Usually hardware, you have a year, year and a half, something along the lines of that. A new hardware or a new software. If it's a big, big implementation of something, usually like 6 months. Um, it's really understanding who are the key stakeholders throughout that program. Like who are the individuals that are going to care or are in charge of making decisions for that program, for that function of the program. You set up that roster throughout. You have weekly communication with them, if not daily, depending on the phase of the program of what's happening. You figure out what they're worried about. What is their big concerns? And you see how you can digest that and implement either a survey to ask questions to your customers, your end users, that will either highlight their concern or make it a little bit better, more confident with going to GA. You conduct interviews with your customers to have one-on-one time to really extract like the detailed data out of that. And user research is usually a big part of that too during this process. And then you continue delivering on the insights every 2 weeks. You have to stay consistent. So whoever those key stakeholders are, you make sure that one, you've set up a really strong plan. And that plan can adjust over time depending on what you're actually looking for. But you're continuing that conversation, building relationships as we discussed before. And if there's new items that are popping up, those curveballs, fire drills, whatever you want to call them, that every beta program gets. I don't know if you know other beta teams, and I know you do, pretty scrappy, pretty resilient. We have solutions all over the place. So if it hasn't worked for one program, it might work for another. We have all those ready to go. So really having discussions with people, documenting what that strategy is going to be, and then implementing those solutions over time and then just staying consistent in what you're delivering.
Great, great advice. All right, I'd like to.
And again, it's not easy.
No,
This is none of this is easy. It's usually people very frustrated at certain times and PMs very frustrated at certain times too because you're somebody's designed something and they have a happy path. And when something goes off kilter, it's not a happy path, and you have to deliver those results. You have to remember you're not the only person putting time into this program. Your team's not the only people putting time into this program. People are super dedicated, so you also have to put that touch onto it, where you're totally aware of, hey, I know everybody's working super hard, and this is not coming from the beta team. This is coming from our customers, the end user, and really showing appreciation for the work that's been there. But we have to shift based off what we're seeing here. Like we cannot go out with this. And that's really tough conversations that you have to have. But the more and more you do that, the easier those conversations have, the more willing people are willing to listen to you when you bring those insights to the table.
mm-hmm. All right, well, I'd love to shift gears into learning about what you think or where the future of beta program management, beta testing, where's that going? I know we live in an age of AI, so I'd love to get your take on the future of our industry.
So AI is an interesting one for me, right? I think it's an incredible tool um, from taking in all the feedback. You have 1,000 testers in a program, and they're all individual results. You have a bunch of open text you have to go through. Um, but when I look at that, I see some pockets of maybe where it can go a little sideways, right? Where you have you don't feel as close to your end user as you would if you just throw everything into one system. It dumps out a bunch of like, hey, here are your top results. Here are, a couple blurbs of key insights that you've had. Um, the strategies, the way you approach a program shouldn't change too much. You should utilize that tool, an AI, a chat GPT or whatever you're using, as something that's assisting you to build your case. It shouldn't be the thing that builds your case. And the reason I say that is that when you're in a meeting and you're talking to stakeholders, upper leadership, whatever it is, you need to be extremely confident in what you're talking about and have a full understanding of what that experience is. And if you are just dumping in and just reading out, you're going to lose that. It's not going to be the same experience. You're not going to feel the same way about what you're talking about without having gone in deep, reading through those comments, reading through those results, extracting that data for yourself. And again, it should be used as something that helps build your case, but it shouldn't be the only thing that you're using. So for me, like, I think there's a lot of great opportunity for earlier insights based off utilizing AI. I think it should expedite what you're trying to do, but it shouldn't change how you approach your programs.
Still needs that human element to it by dehumanizing it. Like we kind of, I mean, that's what beta testing is all about, right? Like getting the product to humans, and if we extract our actual like the effort that we're putting into it, we lose the user, we lose the connection to the user. There's then a middle person, there's
For
AI
sure.
between us and the user. So I agree that there's got to be some kind of balance. AI should be used as a force multiplier for yourself to help you do more, to help you get through some complex issues, but you can't necessarily take yourself out of the beta.
Yeah. There's a reason why, like, if you were to search any support, like if you were to go to like UPS support on Google, the next thing's going to be, how do I talk to a human?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's going to be because they have these tools put in place,
Yeah.
right, to help handle the masses. But at the end of the day, like that's not the job of beta is to handle the masses. It's to understand your everyday customer or your everyday user. And the only way you do that is to really fully understand their experience. And you lose some of that if you just rely on AI to get you those results. Again, for test cases, going through a test plan, even implementing like how you're going to run a program with best practices, that's all awesome. That's what the tool should be utilized for. But fully understanding what a customer is going through, you need to have that human interaction to be able to do that.
Great stuff. All right. Well, I'd love to close this down with some rapid fire questions. I know I did not mention this earlier, but
Sure.
love to get some rapid fire questions to you. How would you describe beta in 1 to 3 words?
Oh man. Ah, exhilarating, hectic, fulfilling.
All right, I like it. Most challenging thing to do in a beta program or beta test?
Getting buy-in.
Agreed.
Getting
Easiest
buy-in.
easiest thing to do.
Easiest thing to do. Miss a bug? No. Um, no, I'd say the easiest thing to do is to get hardware testers. That's the easiest thing to do. People are always willing to test out hardware.
Yep, they like getting that stuff, you know. What's one misconception about beta?
That we are just an extension of QA. We are so much more than that. And the more and more that you're able to tell the story and explain it to all the other teams that you work with of what value you can bring, the better you are and the better your team will be. Um, yeah, that's the biggest piece that a lot of companies need to get over is that real world testing doesn't mean we're just looking for bugs and but bug hunting as you mentioned before. There is so much more that you can learn, so much more.
What's your favorite thing about beta?
Selfishly or as a team?
Mm, I'll do selfishly because I feel like it also extrapolates to a team, the way a team would feel about.
Yeah. So when you're able to bring insights back to your stakeholders and everybody that's part of that program, and you see the changes that are being made, and you see those being spoken about once we go to GA, that's the best. Like, I had a touch, like, the work I did is directly correlated to what that experience is. And there's really nothing better than that. And that's beyond bug fixing, right? You can catch a major bug, that's one thing. But when you talk about the experience that you were able to change or implement during that process, yeah, you can't beat that.
All right. Coffee or tea?
And I'm not a coffee drinker. I do drink coffee every once in a while. I went through a tea phase for a little bit, but I'm like, I could do a Red Bull.
Oh,
I could
okay.
do like a Pepsi or something like that. But yeah, yeah, coffee is, yeah, I'm a weird duck when it comes to that.
No problem. How do you unwind?
Oh, so my mental piece is, and this only started like 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Um, I started running, and that was my unwind. Now I now I run marathons, so it's I guess I needed a lot of unwinding as part of the process. But it was I needed to do something. I needed to change something up. I needed to figure out a way to like go in my head for a little bit and think about things without any distractions. And when you're running, you know, a lot of miles, there's nobody else bothering you, and you just work through pretty much every problem you've ever thought of in your life, including work. And it's a really amazing experience. And you hear, oh, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Go run one, and you really understand what that that comment
Hmm.
means.
Are you watching anything on TV right now?
I have kids, man. It's like SpongeBob, it's City Greens, a couple other things. I By the end of the night, I'm so toast that I rarely. American Horror Story was the last thing.
Okay.
The last season of American Horror Story was the last thing I watched.
All right. Best piece of advice that you've been given, either personally or professionally?
You're gonna fail. It's all in how you respond to the failure.
Great. Love that one. You always learn from those failures and move forward. Yep.
Yeah,
Cool. Keith, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Great. This was a great session. Great interview with you.
it's a pleasure.